We are in the book of Proverbs, and we've gotten down in chapter 6 to verse 10. And I might want to just go back just a little bit. He's been talking about following after wisdom and understanding and staying away from immorality. And after he gets off the subject of immorality, he starts some practical advice for his young, or for his son. I don't know how young this son is. We don't know when he actually wrote the book, but he gives him advice that sounds like he's talking to a younger person. And we talked about this last week about you don't want to be lazy. Look at the ants and see what they do. Nobody's telling them what to do. They don't have a captain. They don't have a king. Nobody's telling them what to do, but they just work, and store up for the winter, for the time when they need. Otherwise, they would starve to death. And he's telling his son and us as well, be busy, keep your hands occupied, make preparations for the future so that you don't starve when the time comes when you can't provide food for yourself because of the weather or whatever. Anyway, laziness is not something that computes to wisdom. So he continues that subject now in verse 10, going right straight from, I don't know really why they broke the chapter. Well, I guess they didn't break the chapter. I had to break it because I had to stop class last week. But so verse 10 is just a continuation of where he left off. He says, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall your poverty come on you like a prowler, and your need like an armed man. And so he says sleep a number of different ways. Sleep, slumber, folding of the hands to sleep, all talking about the same thing, just saying it 3 times to emphasize it. Does that mean we should never sleep? No. What he's emphasizing here, of course, is too much sleep, just being lazy and just piling on the sleep. Yeah, it goes with what we just talked about last week about being a sluggard. Somebody that's lazy, doesn't want to do anything. And you could talk about this all day long, I suppose, about sleep, but a lot depends, I think, to a degree at least, on how old you are. A baby, how much sleep do they get? Probably 20 hours a day, maybe. Well, I guess you would hope for 20 hours a day, but there's a lot of crying in between there with a little infant. But little babies need a lot of sleep because they're growing. And little children, you put them to bed at 8 o'clock at night instead of 10 o'clock like you would a high schooler. And so as you grow older, you need less sleep up to a point, and then I suppose it settles out once you get to be full adulthood. Doctors say you need 8 hours of sleep every day. Some people get by with 6, some people need 10. It's not a question of how much sleep until it gets to the point where you're just being lazy and not doing things that need to get done. And that's what he's talking about. And the end result of being a sluggard, being lazy, is what he says in verse 11. Your poverty will come on you like a prowler, and your need like an armed man. So the end result of being lazy is destruction of a person's life. And so you don't want that to happen to you. So then he changes subject a bit in verse 12, and he says, a worthless person, and I put up there above it what we would say a good for nothing. Somebody that's we call a good for nothing person, just there's nothing really good about him. A wicked man, he walks with a perverse mouth or a crooked mouth. And it's funny how he put those two things. Don't you talk with your mouth, not walk with your mouth? What is he saying?
doing both. He's a wicked man who walks just spewing ugly things.
Okay.
He's just.
Right. And so the walking there is talk about just going about your daily life. That's what he's talking about. A person that goes about his daily life with a perverse or a crooked mouth. We all know what crooked means, and we know that there are nice, smooth, straight things that come out of your mouth, but there's also crooked stuff that comes out of the mouth. And he's talking about the bad stuff that comes out of a person's mouth. A good-for-nothing person doesn't really have anything good to say. He walks with a crooked mouth. And I'm just going to read all the rest of this here. It paints a picture of a person. It says, he winks with his eyes, and he shuffles his feet, and he points with his fingers. Perversity is in his heart. That perversity means delicate or deliberate, unacceptable or unreasonable behavior. And that's what's in his heart. That's what he wants to do, is just, he's deliberately wants to not be a good person. He devises evil continually and sows discord. When I read this part there, he winks with his eye, shuffles his feet, points with his fingers. It made me think of, we've been a couple of times over into Europe where there's gypsies, and you'll see them working as teams, and you might see some guy winking with his eye, giving a signal to somebody else, or shuffling his feet, maybe they talk language with their eyes and their feet and their hands pointing, here's a good mark, that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that he's talking about. They have evil in mind, and their body language reveals who they are if you pay attention to them. And so he's telling Rehoboam, you got to watch for this kind of stuff, and you got to watch that you don't do it yourself. You don't want to be like that. You don't want to be a good for nothing. These kind of people use what they have instead of for good stuff, instead of using their hands and their feet to actually accomplish things, they use it to sow discord or to devise evil and to work evil, thievery and all kinds of other kinds of evil. That word shuffle, as I wrote over the side, it literally means to speak with your feet. Sometimes we say, let your feet do the talking, and that you can do that too. Get out of a situation. You don't have to say a word, just get out of there or whatever. But this is a different application of the same kind of idea. They convey a message by the shuffling of their feet, the way they do. And so obviously he's saying to Rehoboam, you don't want to be like that. And he's already said, don't even go in the way of the unrighteous. Don't get involved with them. If you happen to find yourself in the same pathway as one of them, what do? Get out, move on, get out. That's what he's already said earlier in the book of Proverbs. Any questions or comments about this section right here so far? If not, then let's continue on in verse 15. Therefore, now what does the word therefore mean? It's a conclusion. Based on what I've just been saying, his calamity shall come suddenly. Suddenly he shall be broken without remedy. So this kind of guy that acts like this, his end will come quick. It might be sudden, knock on the door by a policeman, whatever. The end result of being a worthless person is not a good end result. So then in verse 16, he continues on, changing the subject a little bit, but he says, these 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him. Now, we need to define that term hate because I don't know about all the rest of you, but as a younger, growing up, learning, I have numerous preachers tell me that the word hate means to love less. And that's one of the definitions of hate. Like when Jesus says, if you hate your father and mother, he's not saying what we normally think of as hate. Is saying you gotta love me more than you love your father and mother. And so it does mean that. But in this case, this word, that's the Hebrew word that's used here, is the same word that's used uh, about Joseph's brothers. Remember, he had dreams and he interpreted them. Yeah, you know, I dreamed there was 12 sheaves and they all bowed down to me, and the stars, those dreams. And his brothers didn't like him very much. And that's the word that's used there. They despised him. And how do you know how much they despised him?
We're gonna kill him.
They were going to kill him. And if it wasn't for Reuben, he would have been killed. But instead, what did they do? They sold him off into slavery. Is that somebody that you like? No. That tells you a little bit about what this word hate means here for the Lord. God is revulsed and despises the things that we're going to see right here. He says, yes, this is Hebrew parallelism. 7 are an abomination to him. That word abomination means loathsome or detestable. Those are things that you don't really want to see God having those thoughts about you. You don't want him to detest you or loathe the things that you're doing. So here's the 7 things. First of all, he says, a proud look. That word literally translates as a raised eye. You can picture somebody. I don't know if I can do it very well or not, but just picture somebody that's haughty, somebody that thinks a little too much of himself, too proud, looking at all you, and I'm going, kind of telling you what okay, I'm up here, I'm the preacher, I'm above you all. See how high I am compared to you guys? That's what he's talking about. A proud look. God does not like that. And we've all known people like that, both in the church and out of the church. And that's not a good look. A proud look is not a good look. And so that's one of the things that God detests. He despises. So what would be the opposite of that? Humble, humility. That's what God wants out of all of us. Who's the best example we have in the whole Bible? Jesus himself. He was he was the ultimate, the epitome of humility, of humbleness. He had the power to bring fire from heaven and destroy the people that were trying to hurt him, and he didn't. He humbled himself, and before he even came to the earth, he humbled himself just to come to this earth, to take the form of a human being and to dwell among us. So that's the opposite. We don't want to be proud and think too highly of ourselves. Second one, he says, a lying tongue. Do we have to even describe what that is? I mean, everybody knows what that is. People that are dishonest, speaking lies, that is something that God over and over and over says, and yet many of us fall into that practice. And what usually is the reason for lying? There's a couple of them, but all right, to get out of trouble is the big one. You know, playing catch in the house with a baseball. Somebody slips and misses, and the baseball goes through the TV set. Who did this? What's the first thing you hear? It wasn't me. You know, and that's the that's one of the reasons. And of course, there's a lot worse things to do that people lie about. And there's any number of other reasons to lie, to get people to do things that they wouldn't do if they knew the truth about it. There's all kinds of reasons, but God doesn't like any of it. He does not like a lying tongue. And then it says hands that shed innocent blood. Now that could be taken literally, and it could be kind of in a figurative sense. Hands that shed innocent blood would be to kill somebody that didn't deserve to be killed. Maybe you want something they have, so you knock them over the head with a stick, take what they have, and they're laying there dead because of your selfishness, you wanted that. But this principle could apply also to just the things that you do causing harm to other people that don't really deserve it, that haven't done anything wrong. And then he says in verse 18, and a heart that devises wicked plans. I thought your heart just pumped blood. So what does he talk about? It's that core center of you, the one that makes the decisions in your life. It happens in your brain, but it really, it's not just that organ up there, but it's the center of your being, the place where decisions are made, both physical and spiritual. And God does not like having you devote the core of yourself to wickedness. Where should the core of yourself be devoted to? It should be God, and to doing right things, doing the things that God would have us to do. That's what gives us life. That's what wisdom is about, is making good decisions and doing the right things and not devising wicked things. And then he says, feet that are swift in running to evil. Now, does that really talk about feet? In a sense, yeah, because your feet take you where you need to go, but it goes way deeper than just feet. But he's talking about, I think, well, yeah, well, I'm not sure what happened here, but I thought I had circled all these things, but notice it says, perverse mouth, winks his eyes, shuffles his feet, fingers, with his heart. All of these things are parts of your body that are meant to be used for good purposes. God gives us a body, and when we think about the church, each one of us is a member. Like Paul says, if everyone were the eye, then where would the hearing be? And all those things. We each have our abilities, things that we can do, but that's what gets the job done for the church, is the body of Christ, each one acting like they should. And in this case, a person, he accomplishes everything he accomplishes with his body, but really it's the heart that divides the evil. It's the heart that really is behind it all. But he's saying God hates that when people uses the body. Pardon me, I'm in the wrong page. When people use their body parts to do bad stuff, God does not like that. And then he says in verse 19, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord amongst his brethren. So a false witness, that's lying. That's saying the wrong thing. It's a little bit different from just lying in general, but it's false witnessing is lying as well, just saying things that aren't true about somebody else or about something that happened. God doesn't like that to happen because then justice can't happen. And then one who sows discord among brethren, somebody that's divisive, is planting seeds, saying something, oh, did you hear about so and so, and just trying to get people against each other. That God hates that. He despises that. He doesn't want us to have any part of that.
All of these things when they Jesus' trial.
Good point. Yeah, they were the. I guess if you look up in the dictionary, what do these things mean? Look it up in the dictionary. It says the Pharisees. You know, that's what all these things mean. They devised these wicked plans. They were swift to bring judgment on Jesus. They got false witnesses to testify falsely, and they were certainly sowing discord amongst the people to try to get them to go against Jesus and want him to be crucified. So that really is a good example, Barbara. Gene?
Human nature hasn't changed too much. We see all of these things in our society today.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we see them all, and we see we're a little bit maxed out on all of these things, I think. And what happens when we get maxed out on all of these things? That's happened in the past, right? They got maxed out on their idolatry and their being unkind to strangers and oppressing the poor and stuff. And what happened to those people? There's a little place called Babylon. They ended up going in captivity because of too much of this stuff going on. God said, I'm not going to take it anymore. We're not having this. And so if this is the way it's going to be, I've given you all kind of chances and you haven't changed. So this is where you're going. And that's what's going to happen to us too. They say history repeats itself. And I don't know if history repeats itself, but God repeats history. And we need to make sure that we're doing what we need to do as Christians. First of all, I don't want to be one of those that fits this description that would make God want to destroy us because of me. But we also need to do the best we can to be a good example and let other people see what righteousness looks like, and also do what we can to correct obviously we can't correct the world, but we can at least talk to the people around us and do our very best to spread goodness throughout the world as best possible. Jesus talked about leaven. That's how the church is supposed to grow, was just this guy doing like leaven, how it shakes and affects the next molecule, and each one affects the next one and the next one. That's how we're supposed to spread the gospel. We can also spread just righteousness by doing the very same thing as well. Okay, anybody have any other comments about this section? It's probably one of the most famous parts of the book of Proverbs, but I'm sure you've all looked at it many, many times. Okay, so we go on next to verse 20, and I highlighted all these things that I circled. They're all the same word, you and yours. The Beatles have a song, I, me, my, kind of thing. It's like he's trying to emphasize to Rehoboam personal responsibility. Rehoboam, my son, keep your father's command and do not forsake the law of your mother. Bind them continually on your heart. Tie them around your neck. When you roam, they will lead you. When you sleep, they will keep you. And when you awake, they will speak with you. So all these things, you. Listen to me, Rehoboam. You have a responsibility here. And you need to listen to what I'm talking about. First, he says, keep your father's command and don't forsake the law of your mother. In other words, which commandment would he be talking about of the 10? Children, obey your parents. And that's what children need to understand. That's what God wants, is for us to listen to our folks as we're growing up. It doesn't seem like it that our parents have much wisdom when we're young. It's only later on that we find out, oh yeah, they really did have some wisdom after all. But this is what God wants. It's one of the 10 commandments, to listen to your parents and don't forsake their law or their commands. And he says, concerning those laws and commands, he says, bind them continually upon your heart. That core, that center of being that makes all the decisions for everything that you're going to do and say. You want to have the commands of your parents, the teaching of your parents right there, fastened tightly to the very core of your being. Tie them around your neck. When you have something tied around your neck, it's there for everyone to see, and a reminder for yourself. One of the most famous ones, I guess, is that little cross that you see people wearing. It tells people something, right? It tells people, I believe in Jesus. I believe in the cross. And I respect it. And it says a lot about you for that. And so when he talks about the laws, the teaching of your parents, and you have it bound around your neck, make it so that people can see that that's what you're doing, and that you're constantly reminded yourself that you need to be keeping their commandments, following after their teaching. It says, verse 22, when you roam, they will lead you. The they is the commandments of your parents. When you roam, what does roaming mean? It means going out somewhere else from where you normally are. You're going out there, you get out amongst people. What's the tendency for people to do? When in Rome, do what the roamers do. That
It was if you're around good people, you're gonna do good things. If you're around bad people, it's gonna affect you, and you'll start thinking, well, I don't know, is it that bad? You kind of justify.
right, and it's natural for a human being just to want to be part of, want to fit in, kind of thing. But when you roam out there, you're going to get into places where people aren't like your parents, and people want to do stuff your parents wouldn't approve of. You just need to make sure you have those things bound close to your heart, because when you get out there in the world, so to speak, they'll lead you, they'll teach you the right ways, they'll keep you on the right path. When you sleep, they will keep you. That word keep means guard or protect. And so when you have their teaching, your parents' teachings in your heart, even as you sleep, they're protecting you. And when you awake, they will speak with you. As you're going about your life and you see something, you think, oh, my dad would never like that. He wouldn't approve of that. So they're speaking to you during your waking hours, whenever things come out. If you have them fastened tightly in your heart, they'll speak to you, as when things come up, you'll know, yeah, would he okay that, or would he not like that? Would my mom be proud of me if I did this? Or those are kind of things. They'll speak to you when you're awake, if you have them fastened right here. Then he says in verse 23, for, that little word, every time you see that word, not every time, but probably 95% of the times you see that word, it means here's why. And here's why is because the commandment is a lamp. Here's why you want to listen to your parents' commandments, is because the commandment is a lamp and the law a light. Now, what does a lamp and a light do? It shines the way. What happens in the darkness? You stumble and you trip and fall, and any number of bad things happen in the darkness. So the commandments, the law, that's light. That's what gives you the ability to see the way you need to go. That's why you need to put the commandments, the teaching of your parents right here in your heart, in the center of your being. Have them there so that you will have the light. It's having your parents' commands right there is like carrying a flashlight wherever you go. When you get into a dark place, it'll shine you the way of the way to go. Reproofs of instruction are the way of life. When you think of reproof, what do you typically think of? Is that a positive kind of thing? No, you think somebody's raking me through the coals or something like that, the idea. But when people reprove other people, unless, with a good attitude, what are they trying to do? They're trying to correct. They're trying to correct you, instruct you, and those kind of reproofs are the way of life. That's how you can live longer, is by listening to when people correct you with good reproof, instruction. Verse 24, to keep you from the evil woman and from the flattering tongue of a seductress. Now, we've already talked about that in previous chapter. Spent a lot of time talking about the immorality, and now he comes back to it. All these things that I'm saying, I don't want you to forget that this all applies to this woman that would entice you and try to get you to commit adultery. And like we said before, he's talking to a boy. He's talking to his son, Rehoboam. If he had been talking to his daughter, he could just easily have been talking about the immoral man that's trying to entice you with his tongue and all that. And so this is not just saying only women ever do this, but it's just it happens that in the case that he's talking to a guy, so he's talking about the woman trying to get him to commit adultery. You can flip the coin just as easily. We need to keep that in mind as well. It's not some dig against women in general. It's a dig against immorality, what he's trying to get after. And he just continues in the next verse. Do not lust after her beauty in your heart. In your heart, that's where lust happens, right? You control that. You have that responsibility of controlling it. Don't lust after her beauty in your heart, nor let her allure you with her eyelids. The old batting of the eye. I grew up with 4 sisters. And they used to, well, my oldest sister, she didn't have a chance to have a teenagehood. Our father died when she was 14, and she became a mom to the rest of the younger ones of us. She didn't really have a chance to do what my other sisters did, but I can't tell you how many times they could see them standing in front of the mirror, just looking in all these different ways that they could hold their mouth, and it just drove me crazy. I just wanted to throw something at them, but I learned something about the batting of the eyes and that sort of thing, just from them, and how they would try to figure out ways that they could get a boyfriend, for lack of a better term. And so that's what he's talking about. You don't want to get too excited about beauty. What happens to beauty? It fades. Invariably, it fades once in a while. Well, I'm not even going to go there, but in general, Proverbs are generally true things, but you don't want to get too invested in beauty, because beauty doesn't last. Even if they make 80 years old and they're still a good-looking person, they're going to be in the grave within 20 years, and they're not going to be looking that good then. And so you don't, that's not where you want to have your heart. You lust with your heart. It's at the center of your being that does that. And I guess it would be good just here to point out, what does lust mean anyway?
Desire.
Okay, desire is part of the definition. Anybody can get more specific? Okay. All right. Lust means not just a desire, but it's a strong desire, one that would make you want to do something that was not good, not right. That's what lust is. Lust just doesn't. Lust is, and when Jesus talks about lusting, he's not talking about seeing a pretty person. I'm just going to be generic here. If a girl, she's going to look at a guy that's good looking, or a guy's going to look at a girl that's good looking, and it's one thing to notice. Well, yeah, God made that person good looking, but it's another thing to sit there and dwell on it. And man, I want that, and have a strong desire to the point where your mind goes places where it shouldn't go, and you begin to devise ways of having that or whatever. And he says, don't do that. Don't let that happen in your heart. Don't let her allure you. She's going to be trying. There's always people out there that are wanting to be involved in immorality. They're going to try to get you involved in it too. Don't let that happen. And here's that little word "for" again. What does it mean? Here's why. Don't lust after her beauty. Don't let her allure you. And here's why. Because by means of a harlot, a man is reduced to a crust of bread. An adulteress.
Crust of bread. Nobody likes the crust, particularly. And yet, that's how you reduce yourself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when you think, what is the most humble food you can have? Bread. And what is the most humble part of the humblest thing you can eat? It's the crust. And so you become the least desirable, or the least valuable, I guess, thing. That's how you get reduced to he just talked about a worthless person. Well, that's what we're talking about. You get reduced to being worthless by means of a harlot. Immorality will just take you down to as low as you can go. Doesn't get much lower than that. You can get as low, I suppose, with alcohol, drugs, blah, blah. That's what we call hitting bottom. And adultery, harlotry is as low as you can go. And you do not want to get involved in that. And so be careful. You don't admire their beauty a little too much, a lot too much. Don't let her allure you with her eyelids, because where that leads is going to make you turn you into a crust of bread, a worthless person. Adulteress will prey upon his precious life. An adulteress doesn't care what's going to happen to you. It only cares about getting their needs met, or their wants met, I should say, their desires met. They do not care. They will prey upon your life in order to get whatever it is. Same thing true, flip the coin to men, women. How many times have you seen women get totally taken advantage of and abused by a man? All he wants is what he can get, and once he has what he can get, he's gone, and she's left with the consequences. That's the kind of thing that can happen. You don't want that to happen. Don't get caught up with the allure of beauty and the desire of committing adultery, fornication. He says in verse 27, we'll stop after this. Can a man take fire into his bosom and his clothes not be burned? You start entertaining thoughts of such and such a thing. Being with a woman, she's really pretty. Oh, look at the way she's batting her eyes. You know, she likes me. All that. You put that, you get that in your heart. Those coals of fire. Are you going to get burned? You bet you will. So I hate to have to stop here, but our time's up. But anyway, appreciate your attendance and your comments, and we'll look forward to our worship service in about 14 minutes. So thank you for attention.